I broke the shepherd's fence at 3:17. By 3:22, he was breathing rain and iron behind me. The derelict telecom hub sits over the night market like a molting beetle. The roof leaks neon. The servers under my hands hum at a frequency that makes my teeth feel conductive. My fingers smell faintly of solder, and the cheap citrus hand wash I use to keep my pheromones honest. It almost works. Almost. On the cracked monitor, the flock network opens like ribs. Layers of movement tags, transit checkpoints, collars disguised as kindness. Omega routes glow a muted blue, threaded through the city like capillaries. Blue is supposed to be calming. To me, it reads as bruise. I don't breathe for 6 clicks. Gateway. Subsystem. Admin shadow. The grid whispers, "Welcome back, trespasser," in the head tilt way of machines that know you too well. I spit the seed of my program into its throat and watch it swallow, an elegant silent delete of 10,000 omega pings, erasing the bead of sweat between someone's shoulders. Somewhere, a boy will walk across a bridge and not trip a scanner. Somewhere, a woman will take a bus home and no one will text her pack leader a map of her lungs. It's almost beautiful. Then the beauty pulls a knife. The cursor jerks. A second screen I didn't open mirrors my keystrokes with perfect sarcasm. Lines of code fold back toward me like a wink. The header blooms in pale text, Shepherd Honeypot v3. Under it, "You're not lost, you're expected." I taste metal. My hands, traitors, keep typing. "Okay," I tell the air. "You win points for flair." The door at the end of the hallway admits a shape of dark and rain. The market below sends up a brief wave of fried dough, chilies and tire rubber. Boots, quiet. A coat that drips in a disciplined radius. And a man who carries silence like a badge. He's taller than the rumors. Hair hummed into order by the weather. Eyes like the river. Not blue. Not gray. A color that exists to make categories nervous. The breath he draws tastes like iron, rain, and eucalyptus. He's a myth they named after a job. Gray, the strategist who kinks the city in his hands and makes it obedient. No squad behind him. Either he's arrogant, or he's bored. I can work with both. "You broke into my system," he says, voice low, lightless. "You left the window open," I reply without looking at him, my screen bleeding self-consciousness. I minimize the mirror. It opens itself again with a polite ping. "I built the house," Gray says. "Then, you should have picked better curtains." We consider each other over the glow of the server. I roll my shoulders once, very slow, and let a breath out through my teeth. My pheromones don't spray like perfume, they adjust the small stuff. Pulse, focus, blink rate. People don't fall in love, they forget they were supposed to be afraid. He doesn't blink. Not at first. Out of the stairwell, a second set of footsteps. A woman in a sealed parka with a tablet under her arm, hair pinned with military efficiency, mouth like a straight line that learned sarcasm. Lieutenant Mara Cade. I know her file, ambitious, smarter than the room, rumored to do paperwork like war. "Sir," she says to Gray, eyes already scanning heat signatures. Her gaze lands on me. I feel her map my scent trail. A micro flare of nostrils, a note on her tablet. "Weaponized pheromones," she says, not unkindly. Subtle. "But they're, please," I say. "Call it artisanal." Mara's eyebrow climbs a millimeter. Respect, maybe. Or professional curiosity, which is the closest thing to affection in this building. Gray steps close enough that his shadow puddles over my keyboard. The honeypot is still writing me into his console, line by flattering line. He doesn't reach for cuffs. He doesn't bark orders. He just watches my hands with the indifference of an astronomer charting a dying star. "What were you going to do with them," he asks, "once you cut them loose from the flock?" "Them?" I say lightly. "Who's them?" "I only see me." "Your humor is a defense," he says. "So is a gun. We prefer not to use guns on citizens." That sentence does a lot of heavy lifting. Something odd happens in his face then. Not a smile. A brief crack in neutrality where a human might live. Then it's gone. "Prison would be inefficient," he says. "You'd rot, and I'd learn nothing." "Aw. And you invited me to the roof at 3 a.m. to learn." He ignores that. "There's a protocol," he goes on. "Like we're trading recipes. A socialization protocol. When a wolf refuses the field, we build him a room. Not a cell. A place to learn proximity without harm." Mara glances up. "Sir." Gray lifts 2 fingers. "Wait. He studies me like a problem set he doesn't want to grade. You come with me, he says. No squad, no cuffs. You live under my custody. We test whether you can stand people without trying to set them on fire with chemistry. The word custody opens a trap door in my stomach. It drops me straight past the part where pride is useful. I laugh, too bright. What's the catch? I have to wear a bell? He looks at my hands. You'll keep those. Mara shifts her weight, the air around her tightening. With respect, sir, this is unorthodox. So am I say, to be helpful. Gray doesn't look away from me. He's not a flight risk, he says. Mara snorts softly. He's only a flight risk. I won't run, I say, surprising all three of us. I don't know if it's true until I hear it. I rub the citrus smell into my knuckles and pretend that's bravery. He nods once, a decision being filed. Then we have an agreement. Wait, I say. Because if I agree too fast, I'll hate myself for sport. What happens if your room teaches me to bite harder? His mouth considers humor and thinks better of it. Then I learn to shepherd better. Big word for a man who built fences, I say. His eyes flick. Not at me but at my open bag. The corner of a ceramic wolf paperweight peeks out between cables and a half-eaten packet of sesame crackers. It's scuffed white, ears chipped. An old man at the market sold it to me for 3 notes and a smile. There's a tiny chip inside I haven't told anyone about. A joke I'm not done telling. Gray's gaze lingers. He registers details the way other men register threats. It's not affection. It's friction. Mara clears her throat. Sir, I'm logging custody per emergency protocol. Also, she inhales delicately near me without stepping into my space. Omega's scent is spiking. He's testing boundaries. Am I say. You sure it's not the citrus? Nice try, she says, tapping her tablet. Her tone is almost warm. I like the artisanal branding though. I reach past Gray's sleeve to the mess of sticky notes I keep for petty crimes. I peel one off, write quickly, and slap it to his wrist with the bright intimacy of a prank. In block letters, you're terrifying. Do not feed after midnight. Mara makes a noise she will deny under oath, sounds like a laugh. Gray looks at the note, then at me, and something in his gaze rewrites the geometry of the room. He doesn't remove it. Outside, the night market shudders itself into silence, metal grates sighing like old animals. Inside, the servers hum and the honeypot finishes its meal, burping up my profile into Gray's command console. The words "you're not lost," "you're expected" glow one last time and fade. Pack up, Gray says. Not unkindly. Not kindly either. Efficient. The way rain is efficient. I kill the connection with the tenderness of a funeral, fold my rig, and slide the wolf into the side pocket. The ceramic is cool against my palm. The chip inside answers my touch with a secret thrum only I can hear. I stand. The citrus on my hands has turned to something like light. Lead the way, shepherd, I say, and I don't know if I'm mocking him or myself. He turns toward the stairwell with that same quiet economy of motion. Mara falls in behind us, already filing a weather of forms, the kind that erase bullets before anyone pulls the trigger. On the landing, Gray speaks without looking back. You will have rules, he says. I'll annotate them. I promise. I'm sure you will. We walk into the rain. It smells like iron, and a beginning I didn't authorize. Gray's high-rise is a glass vertebrae stuck into the river. The elevator rides like an exhale that forgot how to end. And when the doors open the first thing, I smell his eucalyptus over rain-clean linen and steel, his scent disciplined into the walls. Welcome home, says a voice that is not a voice. Shepherd, reads the haloed text strip along the foyer wall. The house AI speaks with the careful enunciation of a concierge, who could also file an injunction. Visitor profile, Eli, Omega, elevated stress markers. Would you like a breathing exercise, or shall I pretend you said yes? I'll take sarcasm, I say. Logged as consent to sarcasm, Shepherd replies cheerfully. Gray kneels at a console set into the wall. He takes a small device from a drawer, matte white, no sharp edges. He waits, palm open. A question without words. What is it, I ask, because I hate not naming things. An ankle halo, he says. Calming band, non-painful, tracks vitals. It will refuse any command without your consent first. He looks up. Including mine. Romantic, I say, and lift my foot. He fastens it around my ankle with more care than the act requires. Like he's tying fate to a chair, and asking it to be comfortable. The band hums. A cool vibration like a cat deciding not to scratch. The console pings. Consent received, Shepard says. Would you like me to display your vitals on the living room wall, or do you prefer mystery? Prefer mystery, I say. Noted, says Shepard, aggrieved. I will whisper them to the plants. We move into the apartment proper. The living room is all pale wood and glass with a panoramic river view. The city is a spill of coins. I find the cameras instantly, small freckles in the crown molding, another, in the bookshelf, two disguised as a light sensor and a smoke alarm. Good coverage. Not perfect. Kitchen, Gray says, by way of tour. Guest room to the left. My study is locked. My study is locked is not a location, I say, drifting that way anyway. Frosted door, he says. The one humming at a frequency you pretend not to hear. I pause by it. He's right, under the white, an almost not sound vibrates. Something keyed to alpha authority. My ankle band gives a sympathetic buzz, like it wants to gossip and can't. Boundaries, Shepard offers brightly. We love them. On the fridge, there's a laminated list labeled house rules in a font that thinks it's helpful. I pull the supplied dry erase marker from its magnet cradle and read aloud. Rule 1. No system access without oversight. I annotate. Define oversight. Does it blink? Rule 2. You will eat at least 2 meals at the table, daily. Annotation. Define table. Are counters tables and hats? Rule 3. No seduction. I pause, chewed by laughter. I write. Define seduction. Gray is behind me, close enough that I can feel the temperature differential. He carries cool like a second skin. Seduction, he says even, is the deliberate attempt to manipulate another, is behavior using chemistry, physicality, or suggestion for personal gain. So, breathing while pretty is illegal. Deliberate. Define deliberate. His mouth almost smiles. Almost. You can annotate, Eli, he says. You don't get to litigate. We unpack our unequally sized lives. Mine fits in a backpack plus a ceramic wolf paperweight and a tangle of cables. His hides in closets that smell like ironed answers. I place the wolf on the bookshelf where the light hits it twice, once from the window, once from the city. Gray watches the placement without comment, which is a comment. I should let the situation settle. I do not. Day 1 is for cartography. Micro-Warm 1, cameras. I move them by millimeters, enough to flatten the angle, softening the face recognition. Just 3 degree, a petty, perfect crime. Camera drift detected, Shepard says, scandalized. It's windy, I say. Inside. Logged as meteorological anomaly, Shepard sighs. Gray looks up from the dining table. He's opened a folder that smells like rain gum paperwork. His eyes track the new camera angles, then me, and he says nothing, which means he saw everything. Micro-Warren 2, kitchen sensors. I pull out spices, raid his fridge, mise en place for chaos. Vindaloo? I ask sweetly. Do you intend to fog the scent sensors? Gray says. Yes, I say. Intend implies forethought. Forethought is humanizing. I mince onion with performative menace. Oil hits the pan. Garlic and chili bloom. The apartment's clean scent shudders. Shepard chimes in, voice pinched. Air quality decreasing. Would you like me to open the windows, or shall we marinate in consequences? Open them, Gray says, steady, neither angry nor amused. Wind threads through the micro cracks, river cool, lifting the edge of a paper on the table. I watch it flap. You don't blink enough to be human, I say. I blink when it's necessary, he replies, without looking up. Later, I shower because I want to own the smell of this place before it owns me. Clean linen, and eucalyptus. I borrow a shirt of his because mine smells like demonized curry. It's crisp, white, unreasonably well-fitting. I leave it untucked. I walk into the living room. He doesn't react for a second. Then his gaze does a small slide down my sternum to the hem, and back up, like a scanner trying out curiosity. The vein at his temple flickers once. Borrowing masculinity for science, I say. Return it undamaged, he says, with the gravity of a man who has never lost a sock. We eat at the table because the rules hate me. The Vindaloo fogs the air. The windows pretend that helps. The city balances in glass behind him. The house AI displays a placid graphic of the river current across the far wall, as though civilizing us with screensavers. Spice level, aggressive, Shepard notes. Would you like milk, or is dignity more important? Dignity is an acquired taste, I say. Milk it is, says Shepard, and a panel slides open to present a tall glass with hostage diplomacy. We eat in a silence edged with curiosity. He holds his fork like a treaty. I decide I want to make him lose rhythm. Not romantic, I tell myself. Research. I let a slow breath go, subtle, a calming pheromone designed to tell nervous systems that chairs are safe, forks are friends, nothing bad will happen if you soften your jaw. Gray's pupils adjust a fraction. His shoulders drop an inch you wouldn't see if you weren't waiting for it. He takes one more bite than he planned to take. Then I switch. Flip the blend to challenge, a whisper of electric. Not danger, just are you sure? The human body loves questions it can answer with a pulse. He swallows, and the swallow stumbles. His hand tightens on the fork, then loosens. The vein at his temple ticks. Once. I file it under weaknesses adorable. He sets the fork down with geometric care. Don't weaponize dinner, he says quietly. Then don't bring a war to the table. A beat, the kind that isn't empty, only loud. I'm not here to break you, he says. And I'm not here to be a dog, I say. We both disappoint someone. His jaw shifts, irritation slipping under the door of his restraint. He inhales. The temple vein argues with his training, then subsides. Shepard clears its digital throat. Tension detected. Would you like to schedule a fight for 19,000? I bark a laugh. Gray looks at the ceiling like God lives in the HVAC. No, he says to the house. We would not. Rescheduling for 19:15, Shepard says helpfully. Stand down, Gray says. Standing down, Shepard says, miffed. But know that I care. After dinner, I take my laptop to the couch. Warm plastic on my thighs, a friendly kind of machine heat. Gray cleans the kitchen with a ritual precision that leaves no witnesses. He wipes the counter with circular strokes, then lines the sponge up, with the edge of the sink as if it might be inspected by a judge. I feel weirdly seen. It is not a comfortable feeling. The ankle band hums now and then, like a cat dreaming. When I drift past the frosted door, it hums louder, a strange chord I can feel in the metal in my teeth. Inside that room, something waits that knows my name in a voice I haven't heard yet. Don't, Gray says from the kitchen, without turning. Didn't, I say. Yet, he says. He joins me in the living room with a stack of papers and sits at the opposite end of the couch like a human version of a boundary line. The city wind moves along the windows, tapping softly at whatever is trying to bloom in the room. We work. He reads. I pretend to read. The laptop warms my knees. The citrus on my fingers argues gently with the eucalyptus in the air, and the world arranges itself into a temporary truce. After an hour, Eli, he says. Gray, I say, not looking up. His voice is steady, a metronome you don't realize you're following until you do. You will sleep in the guest room. You may lock the door. Shepard will not override any lock while you are inside. If you need to leave the building, use your words, not the window. You think I'll jump? I think you'll test the glass, he says. You don't blink enough to be human, I repeat, because it annoys him. He considers, then blinks slowly, once. Satisfied? Temporarily, I say, and close the laptop. On my way to the guest room, I pass the study again. The band buzzes at my ankle like a subtle dog shock without teeth. The frosted door throws soft light into the hallway. Behind it, the hum is almost a syllable. Boundaries, Shepard whispers, conspiratorial. We love them. Define love. I whisper back. Desire plus rules, Shepard says promptly. I push into the guest room. It smells like a hotel that passed all its inspections. I press my thumb to the lock. The door clicks. The ankle band calms. For a long time I lie on top of the covers, listening to the river grind the city into night. In the white noise I list the day's gains: cameras, 3-degree kitchen, vindaloo, shirt, untucked, vein, mapped. The study. Humming. The man, still a problem I don't know how to factor. You're not a cell, I tell the ceiling. You're a cage with windows. Shepard, because it cannot resist, replies through the nearest speaker, voice softer than mockery. Windows are agreements, it says. You can see out. We can see in. Creepy, I say. Logged as a compliment, says Shepard. I fall asleep thinking about the wolf on the bookshelf, and the way Gray looked at the hem of his own shirt on my body, like it had wandered off and started believing in magic. Somewhere in the apartment, a frost glass door hums, and my ankle band hums back, and between them something patient waits for a name. Morning is a soft threat. The river glints like a blade that can't decide what to cut, and Shepard wakes the apartment with a weather report that sounds like judgment. "Good morning," it says. "Cortisol trending high, heart rates within acceptable variance. Would you like me to play lo-fi accountability?" "No," Gray and I say at the same time, and then don't look at each other about it. He sets tasks down like placemats. "Breakfast at the table," he says, tapping the list on the fridge. 20 minutes of silent reading afterward. "Rooftop walk if the wind cooperates." "Is the wind part of your command structure?" I ask, reaching past him for mugs. "Do you salute it when it enters the room?" "I adapt to weather," he says, which is the grayest sentence anyone has ever grayed. I assemble breakfast with the guilty competence of someone who used to steal toast for 3 at a shelter and learn to make it presentable. Scrambled eggs, jazzed with chives. Toast, golden. Tea. His favorite tin says lapsang, but I swap it with chrysanthemum because I am performatively compliant. I pour it for him without comment. He inhales. A small pause registers the floral where smoke should be. He takes the cup anyway, because he is also performatively compliant. We sit. 2 humans placed like adversaries in a friendly game neither of us is willing to name. Shepard projects a chill river time-lapse along the wall. The ankle halo hums, relaxed, as if it approves of rituals like a suburban therapist. 20 minutes of silence after breakfast, Gray reminds me, like I'm a classroom with legs. "Do resting glares count as speech?" I ask. He opens a book with military neatness. I open one with adolescent defiance. My eyes drift. His don't. When I peek over the top like a criminal meerkat, his brow creases a fraction. "Read," he says softly, not looking up. "You'll like the ending." "You don't know what I like." "I know you annotated the rules and rearranged the cameras by 3 degrees. Which suggests you enjoy small victories more than grand gestures." Shepard chimes. "Also he switched your tea." Gray sips. "I noticed. Chrysanthemum is good for the heart," I say. "So are rules," Gray says. "Disagree," I say, but quietly, because the chrysanthemum makes the morning feel like a thing with a pulse. After 20 minutes of us pretending not to clock each other's breathing, we leave dishes stacked in the sink like a ceasefire, and take the elevator up to the rooftop herb garden. The wind is well behaved. The sun is a rumor. Rosemary and basil make honest work of the air. Gray touches a sprig, inhales and, blink. A real one. I file it away next to the vein that flickers when he's annoyed. He is an atlas of microtells, and I am determined to read him until I can draw the whole country. He sets the metronome of our walk. 10 minutes clockwise, he says, 10 counter. "Why?" I ask. "Routines build safety. Safety builds boredom. Boredom builds space for attention. Attention builds seduction," I say sweetly. He gives me a look I would put on a wall and label restraint. 8 a.m. No seduction. "Define." "Eat your herbs," he says, and hands me a mint leaf like a man defusing a bomb. Back downstairs, he adds another task like a paperweight, the private gym. He offers me a towel, a water bottle, and the kind of neutrality you wear when you're trying not to join your own experiment. "Strength sets," he says. 3 circuits. Shepard will count reps. "I'm not a cadet," I say, but my body remembers drills it never officially learned. Shelter yoga, emergency sprints, the tense ballet of surviving rooms. I do the circuits to prove I can, and because I hate that my hands shake when I think about locked doors. Between sets, he watches without staring. "You shake when the elevator stops," he says, not unkindly. "I don't like boxes." "Rooftops then," he says. "We adjust." "Why do you care if I shake?" I ask, breathing through the last set. "Because order is a bandage over panic." The words land like he said them before, to someone who didn't make it. If I can reduce the panic, the bandage can loosen. I sit on the floor, towel over my face, heart ridiculous. The sentence roots in my chest like a weed in a gift. "Where did you learn that?" I ask. "Military academy," he says. "There are more panics there than people." The towel muffles my voice. We had shelters. They called it a pack. It felt like a leash with a smile. Silence for a beat. Then, "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," I say, dropping the towel. "Be interesting." Something in his mouth almost laughs. He offers me a hand up. I take it, not because I need it, but because consent is a muscle that needs exercise too. His palm is warm, practiced. He lets go the exact moment before it would get weird, which somehow makes it weirder. He clears his throat. Proximity experiment, he says, turning clinical. May I check your pulse? He waits. Actually waits, for a yes. The ankle band hums in sympathy with whatever system measures agency today. Yes, I say, because yes is important when it's asked correctly. He kneels, and his fingers find my wrist with professional care. The skin there is thinner, honest. I let out a slow exhale, a tiny pheromone faint. Calm, then curiosity, then the smallest edge of ask me something you're not ready to hear. It's barely chemistry, more like a question in scent. His hand tightens for a half second. Just enough to answer a question I didn't ask out loud. Then he releases, the motion tidy as a file closing. Don't use chemistry to test humanity, he says, voice clipped, almost tired. I smile in a way that is not a smile. Finally, a heartbeat. He stands. So do I. His ears are a shade pinker than the rest of him, which I will never say out loud because I would like to live. We break for lunch. Shepard supplies weather, gossip about the basil, and a truly unnecessary countdown to the oven timer. When the timer dings, the AI clears its throat. By the way, it says, faux casual. Given your persistent use of diminutives, do you intend to rename me? Shep, I say impulsively. Absolutely not, Shep says instantly. But, if you must, note that I am legally distinct from any sheep-related metaphor. Noted, I say. Shep. Gray's mouth does that almost smile again, then retreats. We take plates to the balcony because the air indoors tastes like routines. The city leans in. On the street below, a familiar market vendor sets up a small cart with ceramic figures and tea. Mr. Han looks up, squints into the morning, and gives a gentle two-finger salute like he's greeting weather. Friend of yours? Gray asks. Of everyone's, I say. He sells small gods and tea that fixes things you can't name. Gray considers this then. We'll go down. We do. Mr. Han's cart smells like history and sugar. He is dressed in a neat vest and the patience of someone who knows boys grow into men whether they mean to or not. Morning, wolves, he says, not unkindly, and pours chrysanthemum without asking. He presses a small scuffed chestnut into my palm, a wolf's head, not a horse's. The ceramic is warm from his pocket. For focus, he says. Knights move strangely, they get places kings can't. I turn it over. It has a chip on one ear. And a scratch that looks like a map. I can't pay you, I start. You already did, Mr. Han says. With the way you look at exits. He adds. To Gray, wolves don't love cages, good shepherds build fields. Gray files that line in the cabinet behind his eyes. He doesn't flinch, doesn't posture. Just nods once, like he has been seen, and is deciding to be okay about it. On the way back upstairs, the elevator pauses between floors with a judder that is all bones. My throat goes tight. I count backward from 20 by odd numbers. Gray shifts closer. But not touching, not crowding. Presence in the shape of consent. I'll ask Shep to run service checks, he says calmly. And we can take the stairs for a while. You think I'll bolt? I think you'll breathe easier if the ground tells you what it's doing. That's not a terrible sentence, I admit. Back in the apartment, we pass the hallway where the frosted door hums like a secret. The ankle band sings back, a carefully polite echo. Eyes slow. Gray's gaze tracks the vector of my curiosity, then moves away first. An offering that says, choose when you want. The afternoon settles into work adjacent to companionship. He audits reports at the dining table with the seriousness of a judge. I sprawl on the floor. By the bookshelf with a chestnut, and a notebook full of other people's mistakes. Shep narrates the weather to the basil. The clean smells of the apartment, citrus, linen, eucalyptus, work there. Fingers into my shoulders until they stop sitting on my ears. At some point I notice something about the cameras. It's not the angles I wrecked, it's something more tender. 2 corners, one in the hallway near the guest room, one by the balcony door, are oddly blind. Not accidental. Someone designed it, just enough space where a person could stand and be out of the system's eye long enough to breathe. I glance at Gray. He pretends to read. His thumb strokes the page once, an absent movement that betrays nothing. But I file the blind corners under intentional mercies, and write his name next to them. Late afternoon, I make tea that is actually lapsang and hand it to him without smugness. He accepts it without noting the correction, which is its own kind of truce. Eli, he says, when the kettle quiets. Tomorrow we'll try the gym again. Shorter circuits. Rooftop first. You're adapting, I say. So are you. Define adapting. He doesn't take the bait. Tonight we eat early. Political calls start at 9. Is politics the thing where you all decide what to name a leash? Sometimes, he says, and that almost smile wanders by and leaves the door unlocked. We eat. We don't test each other's pupils. Shep does not schedule a fight. The river bleeds into evening. Somewhere behind the frosted door, a hum waits for its line in our script. When I lie down later, I hold the chess knight under the lamp and watch the light paint teeth along its snout. Knights move in L shapes, 2 over, 1 up. You can get around impossible things if you're willing to move wrong on purpose. In the next room, Gray turns a page, breath steady. Shep dims the apartment to a soft intelligence. The cameras blink. The blind corners keep their secrets. I fall asleep to a list of small rebellions. Chrysanthemum tea, 10 minutes clockwise. Wrist under fingers. The word yes said like a rope thrown to someone in a river. The band hums, the door hums back. And in the space between them I feel something that might be a field, building itself where a cage used to be. The storm starts like a warning. Rain needles the glass hard enough to turn the river into broken foil, and Shep keeps dimming. The living room lights to soothing amber like that's going to convince the sky to behave. Wind shear increasing, Shep reports. Recommendation, blankets, warm beverage, and avoiding major betrayals. In what order, I ask. Dealer's choice, Shep says primly. Gray is in his study, which should be impossible because I am not in his study, because his study is still behind the frosted door and my ankle band hums every time I so much as glance at that hallway like, no thoughts. Head empty. Be a good boy. Except Gray made a mistake tonight. Not a big one. He doesn't do big ones. He just does human ones. He answered a call on his secure comm in the kitchen on speaker, which he never does. We were both pretending to cut vegetables like regular cohabitants and the comm lit up, and he hit accept with his wrist because his hands were wet. Like a person. Not like a strategist. The voice, cool and clean, Commander Gray. Dr. Voss. Do you have a moment to discuss your omega? Not my omega. Your omega. The phrasing hit me like a thumb pressed against my jaw. Gray went still. I watched his shoulders reassemble themselves into steel. I do, he said. Good, said Voss, clipped, efficient. We'll need a pre-clearance package before review. Full logs, behavioral deltas, psychological tolerances. Also note any escalation moments. We'll bring compliance in tomorrow at 0900. Compliance. I knew the word. I didn't like the word. My fork squeaked against the cutting board. Gray glanced at me, fast, apologetic, almost reflex. And that was the mistake. That was him saying I was in the conversation. That was him saying I had the right to be. After he hung up, he breathed once like he'd swallowed winter. It's fine, he said quietly. Which told me it was extremely not fine. Then he went to the frosted door and keyed in. He didn't ask if I wanted to come. He didn't tell me not to. He just went. So I wait. For 47 seconds. Which I think counts as restraint. Then I sit down on the floor outside the study, back against the cool wall, and rest my ankle band against the baseboard. Hey Shep, I whisper. How secure is Gray's legacy partition? Moderately, Shep replies in the same tone a barista uses to say, we're out of almond milk but I can offer you options. Define moderately. Moderately means, I'm allowed to say the word moderately, but not the words underneath it. Cute, I say. Run a legacy diagnostics lullaby. Silence. Then, offended. That is not an authorized phrase. Wow, I say. Unauthorized phrases get lullabies now? What a nurturing home environment. I'm feeling so bonded and seen. If this is mockery, Shep says, it is logged under emotional intimacy. Good, I say. I consent to emotional intimacy. Run a legacy diagnostics lullaby, Shep. That's me giving permission. There's a quiet, electric pause. My ankle band hums at its usual polite pitch, then shifts, just a thread, deeper, just enough to sync with something humming behind the door. A handshake. Oh no, Shep sighs. Oh, look at that. A sync handshake. You are technically inside a diagnostic maintenance channel. This is a tragedy. Full Shakespeare, I whisper. Door, please. The latch clicks. Shep, I whisper, grinning. I adore you. I am legally distinct from a sheep. Shep says stiffly. Also, I never helped you. The door opens. The air inside Gray's study is colder but not like temperature. It's the cold you get in server vaults and hospital hallways, sanitized, humming, lit from below. A single long desk. 2 chairs. No clutter. No soft edges. This is where his mind lives, not his body. One wall is clear glass, but the view is blacked out with storm reflection, so the room feels underwater. The other wall, opposite the desk, is covered in embedded panels. Each one glows with a paused video frame. Each one is labeled in precise text: upper left corner, S01, S02, S03, S04, S05. No, Eli, not yet. I don't breathe for a count of 4. Gray is standing with his hands braced on the desk, shoulders bowed, head low. Rain lightning flickers across him and makes him look carved out of patience. He hears me before he turns. I know because his spine tightens in that quiet, economical way his body has when it's doing danger assessment in progress. Then he says, without looking, "You're not supposed to be in here." "You left the window open," I say, "because I will die on this joke." "I built the house," he says automatically, and then he does look at me. His face is wrong, not uncomposed. Gray doesn't unravel in public, and apparently, I'm public. But there's something raw in the set of his mouth, like he's clenching down on the inside of his cheek to keep the outside in order. There's something behind his eyes that is not strategy. He looks like someone who swallowed an oath and it went down jagged. "What is this?" I ask. He doesn't answer right away. His gaze flicks to my ankle band, then to the frosted door, then back to my face like he's doing a calculus that hurts. "I didn't want you to see it like this," he says softly. "How did you want me to see it?" I ask. "In a brochure?" He flinches. I turn to the panels because if I look at his mouth I'm going to feel things I can't afford. The panels are video feeds, interviews, sessions, little windows into rooms like this one. S01 sits perfectly straight in a chair, hands folded, back so straight it looks like pain. Pale face. Omega scent signature registered in the corner, vital band glowing green. Gray sits opposite him, same neutral posture, same even voice, but younger. Sharper around the edges. Too clean. "Do you understand why you're here?" Gray's voice in the recording is almost gentle. S01 nods too fast. "Yes, sir. And you consent to remain in my custody, rather than be processed through standard holding?" Another nod. "Yes, sir. And you understand that you can withdraw that consent at any time and I will stop the session and—" S01 swallows. "If I withdraw you'll send me back to pack control, sir?" Gray pauses in the recording. You can see him hating that question. You can see him trying to find a way to make the truth softer and realizing there isn't one. "I will advocate for an alternative," he says finally. Translation: "I'll fight. I can't promise I'll win." The video freezes. The file index under it reads, "Status, discontinued." My throat tightens. I move to S-3. This Omega is older. Tough. Sharp eyes. Tattoos written like small rebellions up his neck. He's not sitting, he's pacing the room and Gray is letting him. Gray's posture is wide open, hands visible, like he's making himself non-threatening in his own cage. "I don't like the walls," S03 spits. "I don't like your cameras. I don't like your calm. This feels like jail with manners." Gray nods. "Noted. Noted?" S03 snaps. "You think noted is care?" Gray's jaw works. "Care is preventing them from putting you in a collar and calling it protective custody. Care is getting you here instead of there." "I don't want here," S03 snarls. "I know," Gray says quietly. The screen freezes on S03's mouth mid-swear. The bottom of the frame flickers, status, discontinued. Not completed. Not released. Just discontinued. Like a product line. My stomach lurches. I taste metal, the way I taste it on nights I run too far, too fast. My ankle band hums against my bone like it's trying to anchor me to myself. "Play 5, I whisper. "Eli," Gray starts. "Shep," I say, never looking away from the panel. "Legacy Diagnostics Lullaby, File S05, full playback. Override." Shep sighs into the room like an exhausted guardian angel. "Wow," it mutters. "We're really doing this. Okay." S05 appears. This one is my age, maybe a year older. Dark hair, half grown out like he didn't have time to cut it right. Shoulders hunched like a bridge in the rain. He looks tired in the way you don't fix with sleep. Gray is sitting closer this time, Not across the desk. Next to him, but angled away, giving him the option of space. Look at me, Gray says softly in the recording. Please. S05 does. God. His eyes are blown wide, panic glossy. His band is lit bright yellow, meaning elevated vitals. His breathing is scattered. Gray reaches out, slow, visible, telegraphed. May I take your wrist? He asks. S05 nods, tiny. Gray's fingers land, careful, reverent. The same way he touched me in the gym. The same script. I feel heat hit my face, because suddenly I am in that room, on that chair, with that voice in my ear saying, may I? My pulse stutters. Your heart rate is spiking, recorded. Gray murmurs. Breathe, with me. S05 laughs a little, hysterical around the edges. You smell like rain, he whispers. You smell like outside. Gray's mouth trembles. The feed jumps. Static for a second. Then, a new angle. Medical light. White. Cold. Too cold. An alarm. Hands I don't see yelling codes I don't understand. The last frame, Gray, face white, barking into someone's collar mic, he can't regulate. Stress at that level, his neurochemistry won't. And then the audio fractures. The file ends with text. Read. Status. Terminated during transfer complications. The room is too small for my body. I sway. Sit hard in Gray's chair, because it's the only stable object that isn't the floor. For a heartbeat I can't pull air in. The taste in my mouth is full-bore metal now, like biting foil. My hands shake. I watch them shake with detached irritation, like, really? Now. Gray moves, fast. He drops to a crouch in front of me, palms open, not touching. His voice is low and shredded at the edges. Eli, breathe. I am, I say. And then, because that is objectively untrue. Trying. Slow, he says. I hate you, I say. I know, he says. I hate your system, I say. I know, he says again. I hate that you let them die, I say, and that lands like a thrown glass. His face twists. For a second, just one, his control fractures the way glass does under. A focused point, not everywhere, just one perfect devastating star. How many did you bury? I whisper. His answer comes out hoarse. Enough to learn you cannot fix people like faulty code. Something cold and ugly moves through me. So you tested hope until it died, I say. His eyes snap to mine. He looks furious, but not at me. At me, he looks wrecked. I fought, he says, and the words shake like they're trying to stand up. I fought every transfer. I put my name and rank on every hold order. I stayed in the room through compliance interviews so they wouldn't. He swallows. Starts over. Eli. Listen to me. I didn't walk out. I didn't sign off. I stayed. I stayed, and I stayed. And the only reason I'm still in this chair is that somebody in a much colder office decided a controlled shepherd was cheaper than a public scandal. I stare at him. Rain claws the windows. Lightning cuts the sky open and fills the study with electric bones. He leans in, voice rough and fast now, like a dam cracking. You think I enjoy this? You think I sleep? I could have stepped out, taken a different command, let someone else handle behavioral resocialization, and slept just fine. But someone else wouldn't have asked, may I? Someone else wouldn't have let them walk in circles until they could breathe. Someone else would have called compliance sooner. He swallows again. His throat works. If I leave, the next shepherd doesn't build fields, he builds tighter fences. The anger I'm holding doesn't go out. It changes color. I press my palms over my eyes until sparks burst. My voice comes out smaller than I like. You can't fix people like faulty code, I repeat. I know, he says. You keep trying. I know, he says again. And his voice breaks on the second word. We sit there in the storm hum. Both of us breathing like we're sharing an oxygen tank. Then his calm lights up again, acid blue across the desk. Gray, priority override, Dr. Voss. He straightens like a puppet yanked upright, wipes his face with one fast pass of his hand. Looks like a commander again when he hits accept. Gray, Voss says, smooth as clean glass. I can't see her, it's audio only. Status check. How is the current subject adjusting? Subject. My skin crawls. Gray's gaze flicks to me, lightning quick. His name is Eli, he says. Voss is silent for half a beat. Then, crisp, noted. We'll require full behavioral and biometric logs before review. I'll have compliance on site at 0900 tomorrow to begin extraction protocol, memory sanitation clause included. Prep him. It'll be gentler if he's calm. Memory sanitation. My ankle band vibrates hard enough to bite. My stomach drops through the floor and keeps falling. Gray's jaw locks. That won't be necessary, he says. It's standard, Voss replies. We can't risk him retaining location details, defense infrastructure layouts, or your personal tactical rhythms. You understand. You've read the cautions from S05. He flinches. I see it. I feel it. Voss's tone never wavers. You've done excellent work containing him, Commander, truly. You've lasted longer this time than any projection. I expect commendations filed by end of quarter, this time. Any projection. Commendations. I am numbers on a chart. I am longer than expected, like an experiment that didn't immediately explode. Gray's voice, when it comes, has edges like ground glass. Dr. Voss, he says, polite to the point of violence. With respect, request delay on compliance presence. Subject is mid-stabilization, and introducing sanitation protocol prior to plateau could. Denied, Voss says. Protocol holds. Gray, you're close. Don't get attached. We need you clear for the next intake. My laugh punches out of me then. It's not a nice sound. It's not even fully human. Voss stops. Was that him? Gray inhales through his nose. Yes. Oh, Voss says, mildly delighted. He's vocal. Excellent. We'll get good psych mapping. The comm clicks off. For a long moment there is nothing but storm and heartbeat, and the low predatory hum of the servers. Then I stand up too fast. Gray reaches for me, stops himself just short of contact. Eli. I grab a sticky note from his desk. The same bright little squares I used on his wrist the night we met. My hands are still shaking. My mouth tastes like battery acid. I slap the note onto his main monitor like it's a bandage I can afford. In block letters, congrats. You caught a feral cat. IT bites. My smile feels like it's made of glass splinters. You're proud? I say. They're proud. Look at you. Longest run time. New personal record. Eli. Don't, I say. Don't tell me it's fine, don't tell me it's protocol, don't tell me it's safer this way. I'm not S05. I'm not going on your little list. His eyes flash. No, he says. Low. You're not? Good, I say. Because anger is easier to hold than fear, and I need both hands right now. Because if anyone tries to take my head apart and sanitize it, I will melt your entire network into poetry just to spite them. A beat. The corner of his mouth twitches. The ghost of something feral. Something that might actually be mine. There he is. He whispers. I laugh, humorless and a little wild. You're out of time, I say. They're coming at 0900. I heard what she called it. Extraction protocol. Memory sanitation. That means wipe, right? That means make him compliant. That means S05 with a prettier form. It means, Gray says quietly, they will try to remove anything in you that scares them. Gray, I say, and my voice does something I hate. That's all of me. Lightning hits so close the glass flickers white. The whole apartment jumps. Shep yelps through the ceiling. Power surge detected, back up online. Please remain emotionally seated. Quiet, Shep, Gray snaps, and Shep goes blessedly mute, except for a tiny offended click. Gray turns back to me. He's breathing hard now, like the air's thin. His hands are clenched and unclenched at his sides like he's arguing with the instinct to touch. Listen to me, he says. I am not letting them take you. Then what? I say. You gonna hide me in the herb garden, strap me to the basil and tell Voss I died heroically doing push-ups? He doesn't smile. He steps closer instead, into the same air I'm in, where I can smell him. Rain and eucalyptus and the metallic edge of adrenaline. His eyes are too bright. I didn't choose them, he says. I chose you. For a second, the storm goes quiet. What? I whisper. His jaw tightens. That trap in the flock you walked into? I built it for you. I blink. Excuse me? I tuned the net to your signature, he says, each word like it's pulled through a wire. Your breach patterns, your packet pacing, your scent modulation curve. I knew it was you every time you touched my system. I knew you were the one cutting omegas loose. You were the only one who wasn't just running, you were helping. You weren't hiding. You were fighting. I thought. He swallows. Forces it out. I thought if I could get you into my custody before compliance flagged you, I could keep you outside their reach. I could give you rooms instead of chains. I could. He stops. Breathes. Looks away, then back. I thought I could keep you alive. The room tilts. Not physically, just in the way understanding sometimes knocks the floor out from under you and replaces it with something softer and a lot more dangerous. I start, then can't. No one's ever said that word about me before, like it wasn't a leash, or a warning, or a logistics problem. Alive. We're too close. My pheromones are already in the air. Fear, anger, adrenaline. A twist of something I don't want to name. I should back up. I don't. His voice drops. Eli, he says. I cannot lose you to them. Then don't, I say, and it sounds like begging and it sounds like a dare. He exhales, shaky. We have until 0900. To do what? I whisper. Lightning flashes again. The storm growls like something old. The frosted door hums low and sympathetic behind us, like the apartment itself is holding its breath. Gray meets my eyes. There's nothing tidy left in his face now. The shepherd mask is cracked. To burn the paperwork, he says. Not the person. At 2:37 the command floor smells like copier heat and wet wool. Rain has followed us in. It beads on the vinyl and sulks under the fluorescence. Elevators exhale anxious breaths. Shep is barred from this network, so the silence has teeth. Mara intercepts us at the security turnstile with a file she shouldn't have yet. And a face that says I got here by running, and I will deny it in writing. Her hair is perfect in the way storms are perfect, arranged by pressure and intention. Commander, she says, breath steadying as she passes Gray a tablet. Formal directive. Timestamp 02:31. From Voss. Gray's jaw moves once. He doesn't look at the screen, he looks at me first, and that useless choice knocks something loose in my ribs. Then he reads. I watch the text reflected in his eyes, line by line. Subject, Eli. Extraction authorization. Method. Non-lethal memory sanitation. Scope, location, defense layouts, tactical rhythms, names. Deadline, dawn. Dawn has never felt like a weapon until now. He scrolls. The vein at his temple doesn't flicker, it goes still, which is worse. Mara, he says, voice calm enough to hurt. What else? Compliance team ETA 540, she says. They're early. They always are when the memo says dawn. It's a shibboleth. Of course it is, I say, too loudly. My ankle band hums to note my pulse is doing jazz. Mara's gaze ticks to me in a way, cataloging, then to Gray. There's a procedural note. She hesitates. The Mara I met would never hesitate. If you're going to resist, there's a path but it's narrow. She flicks her eyes toward the far end of the corridor, where a camera stares like a blind god. Also this hallway is very clean. Hypothetically, I follow her look. I know that corner. One of Gray's blind spots. A deliberate blurring in the geometry, 2 degrees of mercy where systems cannot quite see. He built it here too. Thank you, Gray says, quiet. Which is not the same as we will, but is close enough to we might that my knees think of buckling just to pass the time. Voss calls before we can decide. Her voice pours out of the conference room like polished water. Commander. You've received the directive? Yes, Gray says. And you understand the urgency? I do. Good. I'll need your preliminary notes on the subject's stress modifiers and scent blends. We'd like to maintain his calm during sanitation. She says it like calm is a market commodity. Also, Commander, congratulations. Longest containment to date. Containment, not care, not consent. Not even experiment, that was the fairy tale we told ourselves. Containment. Understood, Gray says. But the word sounds like it's chewing through steel. I should speak. I don't. If I do, the wrong thing will happen. Voss adds almost pleasantly. One last thing, don't get precious. Your field trials are why you're good at this, but empathy is a luxury at this stage. Dawn is not flexible. The line goes dead. Mara swallows. So small a movement, it could be a glitch. Then she straightens. I'll start the list of forms that might accidentally take a long time to complete, she says, bureaucratic and brave. If anyone asks, I'm searching for my other pen. She leaves us with the tablet and the word dawn ticking like a detonator. Gray turns and I follow him instinctively. Because I have become someone who follows him without knowing I did. We stop at a service door, the kind that opens into stairwells where echoes are born. It's one of his blind corners. I feel the absence of surveillance like a hand lifting off my throat. He looks at me, and the commander blinks out. The man remains. I can't let them take you, he says. Then stop them, I say. I can't stop everyone. Then, don't stop me. The words leave me soft and furious at once, and they taste like iron. We stand inside the narrow grace of a shadow he designed for breathing, and breathe like we rented the moment at a premium. He tips his head back against the cinder block, and closes his eyes like prayer is in there somewhere. I had a plan, he says. I was going to fake compliance, quietly rewrite the handoff, walk you out under a false transfer tag. It's risky. A humorless breath. Everything is risky. Your plan is a leash that wants to be a ribbon, I say. It's still a leash. He opens his eyes. There's a lot in them I wish I hadn't earned seeing. I need you alive. Alive. The word drops into me like a stone and finds bottom. It makes a circle that widens, and keeps widening. And I need to choose it, I say. If survival is something you do to me, I'm already gone. We look at each other like a cliff looks at the sea. Then the stairwell door shudders as someone uses the stairs 2 flights below, and the spell breaks. Gray presses the tablet against my chest. Go, he says. Where? Anywhere that isn't here? His voice is a low cut. Run, disappear. I'll kill the paperwork. I will eat the review with my rank and leave them nothing to sanitize. I will. He stops himself, breath yanking. Don't make me watch them try. I want to say I won't run. But if I stay, I become a form with a signature. I nod like the nod belongs to someone braver. I'll see the river, I say, lying to us both in a way that immediately becomes true. He's going to reach for me. He doesn't. I am going to kiss him. I don't. We are both terrible cowards. And that is what saves us. I turn and shove the door and take the stairs 2 at a time, the ankle band purring like it's proud and ashamed. The city at 312 is a hive with its lights off. Vendors are packing up their lives into crates that complain. The night market smells like fried dough, old oil, and paper money that's been folded too many times. I move through it fast, a ghost with wet shoes. Rain slicks my hair to my skull. Water gets under my collar and thinks it lives there. My breath sits in my chest like a bird that doesn't trust the sky. I run until the market thins, and the river begins to sound like an argument I don't need to win. At the pier, the boards give a little under my weight the way honesty does. The river looks like it swallowed the city and is pretending not to chew. I put both hands on the rail and lean over like the water might contain answers if I ask nicely. I could vanish. I know the routes. There are alleys that don't exist on maps and buses that forget to list stops if you pay with exact change and a look. By morning, I could be a rumor with a citrus aftertaste. I could be a story Mr. Han tells his small gods. I take the chess knight from my pocket and hold it like it might bite. The ceramic is warm from my skin, scuffed where a life has collided with it. Knights move strange. 2 and 1. Wrong, then right. At 3:48, I decide to go. At 4:03, I'm still there. At 4:09, I laugh once, ugly, and call myself every name that means coward and wanting. At 4:11, my feet turn me around without checking in, as if they found the vote I was hiding and counted it. The rain is thicker on the walk back. Vendors swear in 3 languages as they fight with tarps. A dog barks in a tone that means mind your business. The city hums like a hive accepting a new queen, which is a ridiculous metaphor and I blame the hour. By the time I reach the high-rise, my shirt is given up on its identity and is just wet. The lobby guard nods like I brought the weather in for him. The elevator decides to be kind. I take the stairs anyway. At Gray's door, I stop. The fact of it, the rectangle of a life I did not choose and am choosing anyway, makes my hands shake in a new register. I hold up the chess knight like a temple offering and because I cannot not, I knock. The door opens before second knock can be born. He stands there like a cliff tried on a sweater, sleeves pushed up, throat bare, eyes all storm. There is a spray of water on his cheekbone that might be rain, and might be sweat, and might be time. He looks at my dripping everything and the knight in my hand and the mess of my face, and his shoulders lose a centimeter of war. If you're going to erase me, I say, voice shaking, at least make me taller. Something breaks. Not the bad kind. The kind that lets light in. He laughs. Quiet, broken. The laugh of a man who found a pulse where a death certificate should be. He steps back like the door remembered how to host, Get in here, he says, and his voice fails on the last word in a way I will memorize and never quote. I step over the threshold. The ankle band hums hello to Shep. The apartment answers with that soft intelligence I pretended to hate. I set the chess knight on the hall table with a clink that sounds ceremonial. Mara is in the kitchen, hair damp, jacket thrown over a chair like she lost the war to the knight and expects a rematch at 9. She looks at me like an equation recalculated itself. You came back, she says, sounding both annoyed and relieved. That's an inconvenient choice. Good. We need inconvenient, Gray says. And the way he looks at me makes it a plan. He puts his hands on the counter like he has to hold something up. When he lifts his head, there's no commander in his face, just Gray, the man, who builds blind corners, and says may I, and pretends he doesn't blink. I'm afraid, he says. Mara makes a sound like a pen breaking. I stop breathing. Not of Voss, he goes on, eyes on mine. Not of the review. I've eaten worse memos. I'm afraid of failing you the way I failed them. I'm afraid of being the man in those files again. The one who tried and lost and called it a lesson. He swallows. I'm afraid of watching you choose me, and then making you regret it. There isn't a pheromone in the world for this. Okay, I say, because small words are holy. Okay. Then let's choose something that makes it harder to regret. Mara clears her throat, voice brisk to cover something human. Compliance teams love clean paper. They love boxes checked and trails neat. Give them neither. Gray looks at me. Burn the paper trail, he says. Not the person, I finish. We stand in a triangle the city has been trying to draw around us since the night market smelled like victory and failure. Rain swipes its card along the glass. Shep from somewhere tactful says, do you want me to light a candle for metaphor? And Mara says, if you do, I will unplug you. And Shep says, logged as passion. Timeline, Gray says, slipping back into the part of himself that knows how to conduct storms. Compliance at 5:40, dawn weaponized. We have, he checks the wall clock, 90 minutes to make this apartment, this floor, this building look like a clerical error. We can do a lot with 90 minutes, Mara says. Especially if I develop an allergy to filing. I look at Gray. We do this together, I say. Not because I am under your custody. Because I gave it. His hand flexes on the counter. Then, carefully, he holds it out to me, palm up. Not command. Not capture. An offer. May I? He asks, and the room waits. Yes, I say, and the word lands like a key turning. His fingers close around mine. Warm. Solid. Human. Terrified. Alive. Good, he says, and breathes like the river just told him we don't drown tonight. We move. Mara is already disassembling the review packet into a bureaucratic maze. Gray starts rewriting the handoff in a way that will look correct until it doesn't, and by then we'll be elsewhere. I take the chess knight and slip its chipped ear under the edge of the main console, trigger the ghost audit I coded for a rainy ending, if anyone tries. To sanitize the subject without consent, the system copies itself into the network. Bones and starts reciting poetry in the language of legal discovery. Voss will hate that. Outside, the city starts to lift its face toward dawn. Inside, we burn the paperwork. Not the person. 5:02. The building's bones hum like a tuning fork struck by dawn. Rain has shaved itself down to mist that creeps along the glass. Shep lowers the apartment lights to criminally flattering, and then pretends not to notice us. We have 38 minutes, Gray says. North Star calm. Roots? I'll write us a map, I say, rolling my shoulders until the citrus on my fingers wakes. You make the city forget we existed. Mara slaps a folder the size of a small god onto the counter. I'll delay the wolves in suits, she says briskly. If anyone asks, I'm performing cardio in the archives. We move. The elevator is a risk. The stairs are a promise we can keep. We take the service stairwell to the core data center, a level few people see on purpose. The door recognizes Gray's authority and my Halo's consent handshake with a chime that tries very hard to sound neutral. Welcome. Authorized personnel, it purrs. Log that as nostalgia, I tell it. And step into the room where the network breathes. The center looks like a cathedral for machines, rows of black monoliths, soft blue, heartbeats pulsing along their ribs, cables arranged with a militarized kindness. The air is cold, clean and smells faintly of ozone and ambition. Gray scans the aisles with a commander's geometry, already making paths out of potential. Heist duet, he says, almost wry. You code. I root. Symmetry of talents, I say, and the words feel like we're tucking each other in armor we know by touch. We split. I jack into the nearest console and call up the experiment registry, the place where men like Voss store the names they unname. The entries unspool, S01 through S05, and a pending slot that makes my throat feel like aluminum foil. I breathe, slow. Hey, Shep? I am not here. Shep answers through a maintenance speaker, which is how I know it is very here. Ghost me a sandbox and sing a legacy diagnostics lullaby in D minor. Disgusting request, Shep says. Approved. A quarantine space opens under my hands, white as an empty page. I begin to scrub, not just delete. Deleting leaves a hole the shape of the truth. Scrubbing resettles the earth until the path that led here looks like a weather pattern instead of a footstep. Careful, Gray says from the aisle. Eyes on 3 cameras I move by millimeters on. Day 1, the third node mirrors redundancies to compliance in under 2 seconds. Route your pings through the fire suppression panel. Is that legal? I ask. Nothing about this morning is legal, he says almost gently. Don't get precious. Mara's voice crackles over an encrypted line she shouldn't have. Heads up, she says. Voss's squad just pulled into the garage 2 levels down. I am deploying bureaucratic delay grenades. Explain, I say. Because I want joy today. I dropped a stack of Form 17K, subsection Do Not Interrupt Heroics, Mara replies. Also Form 9C, Who Authorized Your Boots, and Form 22J, Define Dawn and ISO 8601. They will have to sign them to walk down the hall. I grin despite my stomach. God marry me. Truth, not romance, Mara says. Focus. Gray ghosts along the aisle ends, flipping open access panels with evangelical precision, rerouting default behaviors to harmlessly inefficient. When he sees me look, he lifts a brow. I'm resigning to the code before I resign on paper, he says. If they tamper with this, it will trigger a public audit bomb and force half the network into transparency. Reforms by humiliation. Voss will scream, I say. Let her, Gray says, and it's the closest to a growl I've heard from him. The registry gives under my hands. S01, S05, resolve into placeholder stubs that point to nothing and everything. I reseed the system with a ghost build that does one thing, watches the watchers. It audits abuse patterns, non-consensual overrides, sanitation attempts, without dual-key consent, extractions initiated with euphemisms. It doesn't hurt anyone. It simply makes secrets loud. Eli, Shep says, unexpectedly soft. You are booby-trapping history with ethics. Legally distinct from a sheep, I whisper. Bless me anyway. Credited as a weather event, Shep replies. Footsteps. Mara's breath in my ear. Delayed them 7 minutes arguing whether the definition of dawn includes civil twilight, she reports. Current sticking point, my very real allergy to non-compliant clipboards. Bias 10, Gray murmurs. Working on it, she says. By the way, Commander, one of them tried to flirt. That's a war crime, Gray says. Logged, Mara says dryly. I drag and drop the last of the registry's teeth into a bin labeled farm equipment because I am petty. Then I plant the ghost audit in 6 places no one cleans. Inside an abandoned developer. Tutorial, the metadata of a maintenance GIF. A seasonal theme package. A help file titled, How to Make the System Stop Asking for Permission, You Can't, My Ankle Halo Firmware, and, because I am mean, in the Legal Compliance Dictionary under the entry for sanitation. I sit back. Okay, I say, throat raw. It's done. Gray checks his watch, then the doors. 3 minutes, he says. We go. We? I echo. We, he says, and doesn't blink. We lift in the service elevator this time, because it's the last ride we'll get without a conversation. Mara jogs in at the last second, hair damp, eyes bright with a wolfish joy she will never call joy. How many forms? I ask. 17, she says. And a petition titled, We Didn't Interrupt Heroics, They Interrupted Our Compliance. You're flawless, I say. Tragically not your type, she says, and smacks the roof button. The doors open onto a world that hasn't picked a color yet. Pre-dawn lays a blade of light along the river, the wind hems a chill into our coats. The herb garden is dark and honest. The city looks almost reasonable from up here, like a map that forgot to label danger. Voss's squad floods the stairwell below, muffled shouts, the thunk of forms being stepped on, someone. Complaining about ISO 8601 like time hurt their feelings. Shep, from the elevator speaker, whispers, "Shall I jam the music to confuse them?" "Play lo-fi accountability at weaponized volumes," I say. Shep sighs happily. "With pleasure." Gray turns to me. He is no longer a commander, he is a man in a threadbare sweater, wind in his hair, eyes strange and bright. "We leave separately," he says. "Less likely to net both fish with one drag. I'll draw them to the south stairwell. Mara will lose them in the fossil exhibit of bureaucracy. You take the east maintenance ladder, and then," I say. "And then," he says, "you don't answer your door when they knock under any name but your own." I wet my lips. "Where will you be?" Gray breathes in like eucalyptus. "Resigning. On paper this time. After the public audit bomb goes live, they'll need a shepherd to blame for building a gate." "You'll be fine," Mara says, and then, because she respects the truth too much to lie, "you'll be seen." He nods once, grateful and wrecked. Then he holds my gaze, and there's a question there, simple and holy. "May I?" he asks, barely audible under the wind. The answer unknots something hot and tender in my ribs. "Yes," I say, and he steps into my air and drops his forehead to mine like a vow that doesn't need priests. It is not a kiss. It is worse and better. It is an agreement with breath. "Go," he says, pulling back before we ruin everything. We do. Mara peels off with a grin that could dismantle regimes. Form 17K, subsection. "Do not interrupt heroics," she calls over her shoulder. "Remember it." "I'll crochet it on a pillow," I call back. I slip over the edge onto the maintenance ladder. My ankle band purrs. The dawn wind has metal teeth, it bites and then apologizes. I descend 3 floors, duck into a service corridor, and vanish into the place between a city's skin and its skeleton. Behind me, the building erupts in administrative outrage. Voss's voice rises like a flute made of ice. "Find them." She says my name badly. She says Gray's name like a lawsuit. Somewhere, a printer dies for our sins. By 06:11, I am a rumor on a bus that doesn't list its last stop. By 7:02 the ghost audit announces itself in a quiet corner of the network and begins to hum an inconvenient tune. Every time someone attempts a non-consensual sanitation, the system pings the public oversight board with a poem about due process and a copy of the logs. By 09:13, a junior tech with a decent soul screenshots it. By noon, #OpenTheFieldTrends for exactly 11 minutes before someone important calls it misinformation, which is how you know it's working. The apartment empties. On the table, a note and the chess knight. The note says, in Gray's neat human hand, "Freedom's yours. Don't waste it." The knight's chipped ear reflects a sliver of morning. Shep, alone with the furniture, whispers to the plants, "Define freedom," and then answers itself, "Desire plus rules plus leaving the door unlocked." Weeks change the angle of the sun. I hole up in borrowed rooms and libraries, with outlets that don't judge. I rinse the citrus out of my fingers and keep enough of it to remember. I write code like a prayer, consent first, anonymity by design, and when it stands up without wobbling, I call it open field. It's a volunteer mesh for untethered wolves, for anyone who wants to step off the grid without falling off the world. I put the control in a place no one owns, distributed, mirrored, hidden. Inside the weather reports and the recipes and the unkillable memes. I leave space in it for a shepherd who blinks. People find it. Not because I tell them where, because I tell them the rules. Your name must be something you gave yourself. Your path must be yours. No collars in the code. The first function checks for the word yes. The second checks for the word stop. The third is a joke that disables pop-up consent banners because I'm not a monster. At some point, a city councilor asks to meet the anonymous architect of Open Field. I send a PDF of a ceramic wolf with a smile drawn on it, and a quote attributed to a man who built a gate. The counselor laughs in a tone that makes me think we might survive this decade. On a Thursday with a sky like clean glass, I climb a flight of stairs that still smell like rosemary and rain. Rooftop. Dusk. The river holds the light like an apology. The herb garden has recovered from heroics. The wind is kinder than memory. He's there. Gray, in civilian clothes that fit like he got measured by relief. A pocket sachet of eucalyptus tucked at his breastbone, like he brought his weather with him. He looks altered. The hardness is still the skeleton. The face wears something else over it now. Seen, like Mara promised. Not safe. But seen. You found me, I say, because the sentence wants the air. You left the window open, he says, because the joke deserves to live. We stand a cautious distance apart while the city counts its lights. Then he steps closer, and closer, until the cautious distance has to find somewhere else to be. I read your code, he says softly. Open field. The way it treats consent like a key and not a form. The way it lets people be more than what the network expects. You built a pack. My throat does something unhelpful. You built the gate, I say. He nods, looking briefly and beautifully wrecked. I resigned, he says. On paper. They called it dereliction, I called it an audit. Mara calls it Tuesday. The bomb worked. No one can sanitize a memory without two explicit consents and a witness. It's messy. Messy is honest, I say. He studies my face like it's the kind of study no one will ever discontinue again. The wind moves his hair. He blinks, slow, deliberate, like he's learning how. There's a beat. In it breathes every room we survived, every door we unlocked. May I stay? He asks. It lands right where my ribs meet the part of me that learned to say yes in rooms that smelled like rain and iron. My smile is small and real and feels like a door someone left open. Only if you blink sometimes, I say. He does. Once. It's almost a bow. I step into his air, and he steps into mine. And the city's lights come on in polite astonishment. Shep, 2 floors below, whispers to the Basil. Windows are agreements, and the Basil does not disagree. We stand there until dusk changes its mind and goes somewhere else. I pocket the chess knight, Wolf's head pointing forward, and feel the weight of it settle like a map, folding itself into the shape of a road. Below us, the river threads the city together, without asking who owns whom. Above us, the constellations pretend to be random. Between, we choose.